And my doctor phoned me at the house and he went, I can't understand, but your bloods have come back clear.
Welcome to the Spirits Beside Us podcast. I'm your host, Chris Lippincott. I'm an ex-Wall Street analyst turned international medium, spiritual teacher, and best-selling author. Each week we'll dive into the fascinating and uplifting arena of the non-physical world to help you deepen your understanding and spiritual connection to the unseen realm. We'll also share a behind-the-scenes look with others who've done the same and speak with experts in the field about their experiences. Pull up a seat and let's dive into these perspective-changing conversations. Well, welcome everybody and welcome to another episode of Spirits Beside Us. I am so happy to have another great guest with us today, Debbie Charlton, who is a trance healing medium, and she needs no real introduction because her expertise precedes her. So I am just going to welcome you right onto the show. So Debbie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and it is my greatest pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. And if you hadn't guessed, she's from Scotland, but now lives in Ireland, if I remember
that's right.
right.
I like to confuse people.
Oh, yeah, and you're doing a good job of it. Doing a good job. Yes, that always threw me.
Throws me too.
Oh, I can imagine. It probably throws everybody. I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Good Lord. So one question that I'm sure is on the top of people's mind is, when they're hearing the concept of trance healing medium, they're immediately thinking, what is a trance healing medium? Maybe you can describe that for people.
We all look to healing in many different aspects. Trance healing medium, if we break it down, I think it's the best way to describe it. So we have the healer, the person who holds the space. So I hold the space for the healing. Trance is a different form of awareness. So it's a form of awareness of which degree that we're holding that space for healing. And medium is the go-between, as you would call it, think about it that way. So it covers many different aspects, but what it comes down to, when you come down to boiling it to the end of the day, is the healer, the person who holds the space for those that step forward to become in tune with themselves, for their own spirit to become acknowledged, for them to receive the healing. That's the way I could put it, and hopefully you'll understand it from that.
I've seen, videos of a patient with some affliction, some issue that they want resolved, and they'll get on a table and the trance healing medium, they're just talking regularly, and they'll say, okay, well, I'm just going to allow myself to go into trance and allow a spirit doctor or a spirit healer come in and they will take over, and you see the person go into trance and you see their characteristics change, their voice change, and mannerisms change, and they start to move over the patient, if you will, and they'll start to talk in a different, completely different voice, and they do something, something energetically, and they're healing the patient. And after the procedure, they say all is done, and then the medium comes back to themselves, and sure enough, that affliction or issue was resolved by that spirit doctor, if you will. Is that what you do, or you do something a little bit different?
No, it's really, really interesting. So I want to take you back a bit here, give you a better understanding. So as the healer, we step forward, so we connect to the divine, we open up that space. A patient steps forward into that space, they have to align with that frequency. Okay, so if you think about if there's disease on the body, they then start to, in a sense, if you think of the light within us all, okay, there's that light within us all, that beautiful light, but through circumstances that light becomes dim, whether it's maybe you've lost a loved one, maybe that you're going through a deep pain, okay? So you come into that vibration, this person is holding this space for you, you come into that vibration, you feel comfortable, you align with that frequency, therefore the healing takes place. But sometimes that frequency isn't strong enough, as in the medium, because remember, there's the human side as well, so the doubts can come into the mind. So what we do when we think about trance, so what's the difference there? We're going into a deeper state of awareness and we're letting go, okay? So we're allowing this power. So we think about, those guides that step forward. Think of the frequencies that they can bring forward for us, higher frequencies. So that patient then comes into alignment. They trust the energy of you. So they trust the energy of what's coming forward. They feel comfortable. And what is it they let go? So when we think about, that they step into the energy of this frequency, this guide that's bringing forward, that can connect in a much deeper level than what we could at that stage through our own personal development. So we hear maybe the likes of psychic surgery and things like that, but to me this is basically a frequency. It's a matching of frequencies. There's many different levels. We could look at it as a colour base. Think about colours when we look at colours. Many different aspects to colours, but it's a vibration, it's a frequency. So some may see that, talking like a purple frequency, okay, so think about that purple frequency, what level that's at. So as that steps forward, they may be able to do like a deeper healing because the client feels comfortable. So to me, this is what trance is. Trance is letting go of the logic mind to allow that frequency to become deeper so that the deeper aspects of the healing can take place.
So, because I know you do healing on a regular
Yes,
basis, if I recall, but you also are doing, trance and
yes,
trance circles, of course, as
yes, yeah.
well. Where do you feel the most connection, or are they just different types of connection? Or where do you feel the most, I don't want to say rapport, perhaps that's the wrong word, but the most, the deepest connection? Is it with the healing when you're just becoming the energetic vessel, or is it with the trance where you are the vessel for them, allowing them to speak, or are they just different sides of the same
It's
coin?
different sides of the same coin. So think about it. You can start off as, I'm an approved healer with the SNU. So I do the healing within that, within that framework there. So it's very much within the boundaries as well. What is the difference? So we come and we align with the divine, okay, but we're taking it that step further because we're allowing ourselves to let go. We're allowing ourselves to completely surrender. Yes, you do surrender to the divine, but I just find within myself as a healer, the more that I can get Debbie out of the way and allow myself to really connect and feel the power. It's the power that we sit and you feel that power moving through you. And as I feel that power like moving through me, I'm letting go and I'm connecting to the frequency of what's coming forward for doing the work for the healing. So it's the way that I would put it's the different levels of awareness. Each stage will bring a different state of awareness. So as in with trance, I find that I can let go in a much, much deeper level. And in letting go, I can allow that power to connect and feel much more at ease within that power because I'm not having to think about it. Do you see what I mean? So there's different
Hmm.
levels. I could have a client in front of me and I could be doing the healing. I could be in a lighter state of awareness, a lighter state of trance. I'm more aware of what's going on. I'm more aware of this flow of energy. But then again, if I sit to give trance healing, for instance, I allow myself to step back further and allow that power to be more felt. I will feel it more, so I let go. So it's like I'm handing more of the reins over to what's coming forward. The trust within that I've
Mm.
built with my guide, Eric, who would be the healing guide that works with me. I have over the years, and I mean 20 odd years, I've been working with him, So with that, there's this trust that has come forward because he has also helped me with my own healing journey. So I had that trust with him built up before I even did what I do now. He helped
Hmm.
me at a
Wow.
real deep, deep stage in my own life and through that experience, that helped me to trust to a degree that I might never have been able to trust because I experienced it
Okay.
myself, So that's why I'm able to let go, that he still works with me in this element, and I feel him coming through. When I mean I feel him coming through, I feel the vibration of him. It's like meeting an old friend. That's what it feels like to me.
Sounds like a pretty good friend
Oh,
to
he
me.
is. He's amazing. He's just amazing. He really is.
So how did you get there from here? Or I should say, how did you get here from there? When you were a child, what was your
Oh.
childhood like? What was your family life? Was it all you? Was it your family? Was it culture? How did this all start out when you were
I
young?
had an amazing childhood. I had an amazing teacher when I was young, which was my father. My father was the
Ah,
most
right.
amazing man. And it's like when I look at it, I was very blessed because my mother kept my feet in the ground, but my father nurtured me spiritually. So I had this
Hmm.
beautiful, a beautiful way of looking at life through the eyes of two of the most important people to me. Um, and then I had, in the other sense, my grandmother on my mother's side, who kept me humble. When I looked through her eyes, I seen humility. So she kept me humble. She helped me really understand what humility was, or still is. So through those years, my father was my greatest teacher. He didn't make it easy for me. If I asked him the question, he would say, "What do you think? What does it feel like? Tell me what's happening." So he never gave you the answers. He allowed you to find the answer within yourself. So why was that really good for me? Because I learned to trust me. I learned from a young, young age to trust me. I learned about boundaries with the spirit, with my own spirit from a young, young age, and that then took me forward. So growing up, I had that beautiful connection, and I learned everything from my father. As I say, I had my sister as well. She's just a couple of years older. So he was nurturing the two of us, and really the most beautiful thing is when I look back, it was like things didn't make sense to me then, but they make perfect sense now. But what he was doing was instilling me all those beautiful lessons. And it's like he used to say to me, I used to say, "Dad, I feel as if nothing's happening." And he went, "But you're waiting for your door to open. There's no point in that door opening for you just now, for you would never understand it, would you?" And I still hear his words to this day, you
Wow.
know.
Wow.
So moving forward, my father passed away to spirit in 2009, and I literally shut down. I shut down for 2 years, 2 full years. Felt nothing, heard nothing, and I'd be very clairsentient, extremely clairsentient, and that's how it would have worked. 2 years later, I had this inkling to go to, an awareness class, that did everything. It was in our local spiritualist church in Belfast. I remember when I walked through the door, now my father and my sister were amazing mediums, absolutely amazing mediums. I was always the healer. It was everything to do with healing. And I remember saying to my dad, "I'm in amazement at you and my sister, the way that you are." And he went, "But you've just not found the gift of you, Debbie, and that will come." And that was his words to me. "You have not found the gift of
Wow.
you, but that will come
Of you.
for when you discover it." And it makes perfect sense to me now. But I was so blessed to have that, to absolutely have that. And then as I said, I then went along to the spiritualist church, and I remember when I walked through the door and I says, "I want to become a healer," and she says to me, "Oh, you won't become a healer until you've gone through the awareness and went into mediumship." And I was like, "Oh, I don't do mediumship." But you see, the thing was, I did mediumship all my life, but not even been aware of it, because it's like I've got a foot in both worlds. I'm constantly, and what I found was, and this is how the healing came through, the people that came to me for the people that needed the message that I brought forward at that time. It wasn't let me sit and give you a reading. It never was like that. The people that crossed my path, what come through was what was needed for them at the time. So it was never about me. It was never about me. And this is the most beautiful thing, you know. So moving forward, yes, I went through the awareness classes and then went into invited into the closed circle, and then, you know, started to move from there. But I would say that my real journey started probably at when we went into lockdown. Such a massive change, and I think for a lot of us, we actually
Mm.
came to realize we all need to come together and spread our wings. There's so much that's needed to be brought forward. So many people, we talk about this great awakening, and it is, and a lot of people struggled, and that's completely, you know, normal when you think of maybe what some people were experiencing during the lockdown. But I have to admit, I loved it. I loved having that time to myself. I loved having my family around me. There was no, you know, there was no demands on us. It was just this perfect alignment of the silence, but having, you know, we still had the community around us because you could still use your phone and, you know, and talk that way and video chat, you know. So I think I started contact, you know, it's like, it's the strangest thing, but one thing led to another. You know, someone would talk about this group, you join that group, you start talking to people. One thing led to another, and I feel that the growth over these last 5 years has been absolutely tremendous. But it's like everything that I was taught, everything that I learned has all come to fruition now, and I understand it, and I understand the plan.
Yeah, it sounds that because we humans are so impatient,
Hmm.
we expect something and then we expect it to happen
Yeah, yeah,
now. It's
absolutely.
like that little girl in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the
Oh
purple
yeah,
girl, and he's like,
Veronica.
"But Daddy, I want it now."
Exactly.
All right, sugar plum, you'll get it. I mean, that's what we humans
Yeah,
tend to want,
yeah.
but it's not spirit seems to have a concept of you'll get it when you're ready,
Yes,
not when you
that's it.
necessarily want it.
That's it. And it's like my dad used to say to me, you know, and I understand that now, but he says if you receive, and he always used to talk about the jigsaw puzzle, the pieces of the jigsaw, okay? This is what he used to sort of say. He says, you know, you've got that bit of the jigsaw puzzle to work out. You need to sit with it. You need to listen. You need to feel. You need to connect. There's no point in giving you another piece because you'll not understand it. You have to
Right.
understand this part of it first that's coming forward for you, in whatever way that that comes. And then it's like when you sit back and you think, oh, wow, I understand it
Yeah.
now. And you wouldn't have understood it then, you
Right. And,
know?
and it sounds also very much that your father was the kind of teacher who told you where to look, told you where to focus your attention,
Mhm.
but not what to see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I feel that that taught me was about the power that each of us hold, that we need to look within to understand. We talk about connection. What does connection mean? What does connection mean to you? Everybody is individual, and this is what he taught me. Everybody is individual. And it's like now within my teachings, I can hear his words coming through me. As he taught me, I can feel his legacy coming through in my teachings now. And it's like, I'm not going to give you the answer. Go within and find it. Find your own individuality. Find your own power, because if I'm telling you where everything is and how everything works, all I'm doing is taking the power away from you. Where does that leave you? How do you know your growth then if you don't find it yourself?
Hmm.
You
And
know?
it's also the more that you find it yourself, the deeper the understanding truly
Yeah,
becomes.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. But you have to let it go. And that's the hardest thing, you know. You find it all of a sudden. Yeah, I really understand. Now let go and move on. This feels so lovely
Right.
here. I want to stay here. But no, you need to move on now.
Yeah, that's the other frustrating part is we're like, okay, well, I really love what I've got and I really understand it, so I'm just going to stay
Yeah,
here because now I'm
yeah,
comfortable. But the whole concept of growth is moving beyond that comfort
yeah,
zone because growth means you're actually moving outside of your little comfy circle.
absolutely. It's like he used to say to me, if you stay in the box, you'll only see in the box. You have to step out of the
Mm-hmm.
box. You have to
Because
question.
that box has to keep on
Yeah,
growing.
absolutely. Absolutely, Chris. So
That's
true.
the definition of
Yeah.
growth.
Uh-huh.
So, perhaps you can describe I mean, you mentioned Eric, your guide for 20 plus years. Perhaps you can mention your first encounter with spirit, whether it was Eric or anybody else. What do you recall your first encounter with spirit? What was it like? Was it scary? Was it shocking? Was it before your
Mm.
father was already talking to
Oh
you,
yeah, yeah,
or
long before.
was this kind of like, oh yeah, sure, that's what my dad's been saying. Finally you show up, or what was it like?
My first experience, I was 4 years old, and I still
Ooh.
remember it as clear as day. And my younger brother, he was only about 2 at the time, and we were in our back garden, and the sort of like you have the gate here, and there's a long path, and right in front of us was it was a field, but the school was in the field, and right on top, at the entrance, just right across the road from where we were looking down the side, and I could see this Native American warrior on a horse, a white horse. I can still see him to this day with the feathers in his hair, and he just had sort of like this. It was like his chest was bare, but I could see these leather straps round his arms here on both the arms, and he had sort of like it was covered at the top, but I could remember his legs being bare and this white horse. And it was something that I remember looking and seeing. I would have seen spirit as a child, but this one episode is one that stayed with me because it was so poignant to me. And I just remember looking, and he was just on his horse, and he was holding the reins, and he was just like looking at me, and then the next minute he was gone. But it was so, so clear, but it wasn't like an older man, it was a young warrior, and you could just see the face paint, the white face paint just up here. And it
Mm.
was funny because I'm talking about in the last few years, I was talking about this to my brother, and he says, I remember that. He was 2 at the
Oh,
time, so it wasn't just me,
wow.
because I'd never said about it to anybody because it was just so. People would have. I know, like my mum would have. What are you talking about? Well, like the way that I was a very shy child, extremely
Your
shy.
mother probably would have said, Debbie, we're calling the doctor.
Yes, exactly. But I think with
And I'm
me,
not talking about the one
uh
who prescribes medicine
yeah,
either.
I think my way in the beginning, because I was so sensitive to spirit from a young age, but I would have been quite a withdrawn child because it would have frightened me. I seen things that frightened me because I didn't understand them. Do you know what I mean? And as I says, I remember seeing things, and because I didn't know what it was, and I wouldn't at that stage have come and I wasn't outspoken about what I was seeing. I kept everything to myself, but it's a thing that never ever left me.
Hmm.
Extremely.
Do you think you touched on something interesting? Do you think that when people see spirit and they get frightened, it's because they don't understand either A, what's happening, or B, the broader picture? And because you've got so many people who, they're following the old Hollywood ghost
Yeah,
story script, and they're like, "Oh, it's a ghost. It's got to be bad."
yeah.
What are your
I
thoughts on
think
that?
as a child, you can have. I would have. I would just describe myself as a very sensitive child. I was very sensitive to everything that was going on around me, and I remember. I mean, I've got images when I was a baby. I mean, like, for instance, there was a fire in our house when I was literally 8 months old. And I told my mother about that, and she went, "You wouldn't be able to remember that. You were too young." But I remember the feeling of fear as a baby with this intense heat in front of me. And the thing
Hmm.
was, every time my mum used to put the fire on, they used to put like a piece of it's like they put the shovel in front of it, and then they put this paper on, and it brings the fire up. And every time she used to do that, I used to run and hide, but I never knew. It wasn't that I was
Wow.
aware of it. It was just that I remembered what I felt. So the feelings that I experienced as a child was so strong. I didn't need to know. I just knew what that felt like to me at that time. So it was the same with spirit. I was seeing things I didn't understand, but I had that fear that we have as a child, which is a safety thing within us as well, you know. But it wasn't until I was older that I was able to start to talk to. Our dad was noticing because he was the same when he was a child, but it was different upbringing. Do you understand? So you know, so how we interpreted things was different. So as I said, and I think with that, I learned discipline at a young age, a very young age, of blocking things that I didn't like, that I didn't understand. I'd be in my room and it's like, you know, I was seeing into the past of what the room looked like in the past. Do you know what I mean? I was
Wow.
seeing the women that lived there before us that passed away. So you can imagine being bombarded because I didn't have discipline at that age. But yet I was, and this is what I meant between being in both worlds at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
So as I say, I learned at a young
Interesting.
age. I remember telling my sister, you need to become disciplined because she was constantly Spirit was constantly speaking to her. And I says, you need to tell them to stop. Only work when you're
Mm-hmm.
working. And that's the thing that I still carry to this day.
Right, and that's one of the big things I tell people is that imagine you're a store owner and you've got a sign, now I'm
Mm-hmm.
open for business, and when the door
Yeah.
closes, now closed for business,
So
and they
important.
can't talk to you when you're
Yeah,
closed.
yeah, so important. And a lot of, you know, that's how you hear a lot of people getting burnt out because they're
Yeah.
constantly, so what they forget is that, yeah, they're spirit, but they're in this physical body. And it's the physical body that bears the brunt if we're not disciplined. The body becomes tired. And you notice that, have you ever
Mm.
noticed if you're working how thirsty you become or how hungry you become? That's your body telling
Mm.
you, you know?
That's why they say eat a lot of chocolate.
Or go for the bananas.
Yeah, I mean I like the excuse of go for the chocolate.
It's a better option.
I mean, I'm like, hey, there's lots of energy there. I'll take it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's fascinating though. It really is, Chris.
Yeah. So you're talking about discipline. How did you learn to develop that discipline, and how did you learn to develop the more specific awareness? I mean, you went to the spiritualist
Mhm.
church, and they were certainly helping shape you. But what were some of the steps that you started to become much more focused on to help you develop that specific discipline and
Do you
awareness?
know, I would say, right across the road from us, there was this old house, and there was a part in the house, it was like in the field of the house, and there was almost like cut into the ground this piece of ground. And I remember going and sitting there and actually digging my hands into the dirt. So to me, without even realizing I was grounding myself, I used to go there every day after school. And I remember as a
Mm.
young child, and as I looked out, it was just this. I just remember feeling this peace coming through me, but I felt as if I was being helped, like held down in that sense that I could feel my feet in the ground. That I wasn't aware of this talking, of this connection. I was more aware that I was actually centered. And I think what I've learned through the years is when we listen to within, we'll be guided for what we need.
Mm.
And this is what I think is
Mm.
my biggest gift that I've noticed that's within me, of how grounded I am. Because I always remember I was actually doing shamanic work. I was actually doing shamanic training. And you know me, Chris, I can be quite loud and laugh and things, you know. And just
No,
a wee tiny bit, you know.
just a wee
A
bit,
wee
I
tiny
think.
bit. But I just remember I was working with this guy, and we were working together and we were doing a healing, and he came to me and he put his hands just on my shoulders and he went, "Whoa!" He says, "You literally took me into the ground." And that's where I can switch it on like that. I sit to ground and I'm there. It's not there's no needing to think about it. I'm just there. But it's been through pain. It's been through fear that I learned that as a young age. I didn't like what I seen. I felt uncomfortable with what I was seeing. I was uncomfortable with what I experienced. And I see that now, like I'll take time. I have to take time. You know, when I finish work, I finish work. If I'm working with spirit, I finish work and I will go and I completely cut it off. And I actually feel myself cutting it off. It's like, yeah, the door's not just closed, the door's slammed. And then I will go off, you know. But I become so in tune with when that's out of sync or if it's out of balance, because it's when you really start to listen within, you know. It's powerful. It's really powerful.
And I think that, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with such an important topic, is that when you begin to focus on the voices, the feeling, the sound, what's truly coming from within, that's where the truth lies. That's where you really begin to connect with what you need to know.
Yeah.
Because so we're in this society, no matter what country you even live in, you're just bombarded by 1,000 things, and so we're distracted in a million different directions, and that's why it was such a productive era for spiritualists in the late 1800s, because time was so slow.
Yes, absolutely.
And quiet. They didn't have those distractions that we have now. I mean, people are falling into manholes because they're looking at their cell phones.
Exactly. But it's just this constant bombardment to you. And it's just when you start to switch all those distractions off, you know, you think about,
Yeah.
you ever notice, the thing is, what you don't realize is when we're working spiritually, everything's amplified. Do you ever notice that? Sound is amplified when you're working with spirit. And I always remember there was one day I was in the church and I was doing healing. I was just talking about this the other day. I was doing a healing. There was the gentleman in front of me, and someone closed the door at the back of the church. I literally thought they'd taken it with full force and banged the door. And I actually jumped and I turned around and says, "Can you be quiet, please?" And he went, "Debbie, we just shut the door," but the noise was amplified. So you think about, we are expanded into this awareness. Everything, that's why you think about, we can't hear spirit and the frequency as we're just talking now. It'll be like a whisper coming to us. Do you know what I mean? You think of the levels of awareness. That's a slight, but think about when you start to go in and then you start to expand out. We connect first, we're held. We're here. That's us, we're here, we're here to work. And then you start to expand out. That's why this needs to be right. Because when you come back into you, that's what will guide you to the next step. Not being out here. It's within here that guides you.
Interesting. So, so many people are fascinated by trance, and some think, "What is it?" Others think, "How do you do it?" Maybe you could sort of put people in your shoes as you begin your trance. What's it like for you as you go into the trance state? Maybe you can just kind of describe that for people.
It's a beautiful, beautiful experience, but there's many different levels, when we think about trance, and there's many different ways within the journey of trance. So if we break it down, the first thing that I experience is the breath. I have to become aware of the breath. I have to become aware of the rhythm of your own breath, because that takes you into the experience, but it also can bring you out of the experience if you're not in rhythm with your breath. So the first thing is I would connect to my breath, and then I'd be aware of following that breath and feeling where my connection is. Do we know where our connection is? Do we know what connection is? So establishing, yes, as I'm breathing in, I'm starting to become aware, this is where I connect. This is my starting point. And a lot of times I would say you probably notice that sort of like within the base and the sacral, okay? Just being aware as I'm breathing in, yeah, I feel that connection. But now we want to take it deeper. We want to actually ground, to let us let go of the physical body, let our awareness go of the physical body. So as we start breathing deeper now and coming in and feeling that connection through the earth, a lot of my students would talk about feeling cold. They start to become really aware of a coldness around their legs, you know. That's sort of like the next stage. This is what we talk about grounding. You need to be grounded to do the work we're doing. And then we start to become aware of the power. We talk about blending and sitting within the power, but we have to build our own power. It's awareness of this alignment. So think about alignment. We need to be in alignment. So if you think about the connection from the divine and you're in alignment with that, so you're aware I'm held here, but I'm aware of this beautiful connection. We work on that. We work on this connection because that's what we work with. We have to work with the power we build. So it's like working a muscle. We build that power, so that power can hold us. And then the most beautiful part is when we bring that awareness into the heart. And as we connect into the heart, we start to expand out. And as you start to expand out, that's when you feel your beautiful friends stepping close. So you feel this beautiful union, this beautiful friendship. It's like when I spoke about Eric, it's like I'm greeting my friend, just as you would greet your own friend. You feel that bond, you feel that closeness. And in the sense, I let go, just as you would let go when you meet your friend for the first time and then you sit and you're talking away and you're having that conversation. It's the exact same thing, but that conversation now is the work that's been done. So we sit back and we enjoy that flow. And you may, like with me, if I'm doing a healing, okay, I may be aware of the flow coming through my throat. So that's the way that Eric is working with me. That's my awareness of it, that the flow is coming from my throat. Could be if Eric is stepping forward to bring teachings through, that all of a sudden I feel the energy really strong in my heart and it moves up into the throat and my throat becomes tight. And then the throat will loosen as the words come forward. If we talk about working in a different way with direct voice, is something I'm working just now, which is another different, it's physical. But my throat activates before we hear the words. So there's many different aspects, but the one point in it all is your awareness. And that's what trance is. Trance is a state of awareness, many different states of awareness.
Could you also say trance is a state of awareness beyond
Oh,
yourself?
absolutely.
Because
Well, no, because it's interjoined. You have to have
perhaps simultaneously.
self. You have to have self to be connected, to be aware of the connection is self. It's your own spirit. You're working in union. It's not separate
Right.
from. It's connected.
Not separate from, but perhaps in order to get away from the physical aspect, you become much more aware of the self that you, because some people speak about quote unquote going down
Yes. Yeah.
or going
Yeah.
away. So they don't want to be inside their physical body anymore. They want to be the
But yeah,
observer,
but what is it?
observing.
But what is it? It's the mind that we want to become distant from, not from the self. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
mind,
The
yes, yes,
mind
perhaps
we
that's
want
better
to
said.
let go of. We want to subdue the mind so that we are more in connection. It's about the connection. So when the mind becomes subdued, we become more into this moment of the flow, and it's about the flow that's coming forward. Whereas if the mind's there, it'll take us out of it, which comes back to the
Right.
breath.
And what's interesting is you spoke about the heart expanding, which is very similar, and the power, which is
Yeah,
very similar to just regular
yeah,
mediumship, where you're in the power, you're expanding the
yeah,
power, you're expanding your heart. But what's so interesting is that in both cases, spirit uses the heart to connect
yeah,
with us
yeah.
because they connect in the heart
Mm-hmm,
chakra,
mm-hmm.
and that's, they'll come in from the back through the back.
Yeah,
They're like two heart chakras, and they go from the back heart chakra to the front heart
yeah.
chakra. and connect with us, but a bigger, I don't want to say like it's a bigger target zone for them.
But I think it's where the purity is. You think about the heart, it's
Yes.
the purity. And when the heart is expanded, it's been shown, if you think of the energetic field, of how it vibrates
Mm.
out far beyond than what we're even aware of. So if you think about that
Mm-hmm.
in terms of why they work with us in that way, we're aware of, we may be aware of the power of the build of the energy, say like in the solar plex, but the expansion in the heart is something completely different, and you can understand
Mm.
why.
And you could even say the greater the expansion, thus the higher the vibration,
Absolutely.
thus the stronger the
Yeah,
connection.
yeah, absolutely. When you're in the heart and you're working with your power and you feel this expansion, it's like I always say, don't hold on to it, let it go. But as you let it go, you're expanding deeper into the awareness. And as you start
Mm.
deeper into that awareness, you're actually able to connect to these much higher frequencies. This is the whole
Mm.
point about the balance and that.
And even another way to look at it is to consider your heart is the center of your
Yeah.
spirit.
Ah,
So
yeah.
you are literally growing your spirit.
Yeah.
So as your spirit grows, you are therefore able to connect even more
Yeah.
strongly with the spirit around you.
Absolutely. And that's felt by everybody. Remember that as well. The more that we are working within the heart and allowing ourselves to be connected through the heart, so everything that we experience, we bring it into the heart. It's almost like, if you think about it in that way, that when we question something, if you ever think about when you bring it into the heart, the answer comes back almost right away. And you think about it, like,
Mm.
because think about what is it that I need. And if you close your eyes and you come into the heart, it's like you'll feel the warmth coming back. So the answer can come in
Mm.
many ways, but you'll actually be guided to what you need. If you're up here, you're questioning it. What do I need to do? How am I going to get out of this situation? And you go round in circles and circles and circles, but whereas
Mm.
within the heart, it's different.
And where does the analytical mind, logical mind rest? The mind.
Yeah.
It's not the analytical logical heart.
No,
No.
no, not at all. No, it's fascinating though. You know.
Yeah, that's great. What would you say would be, if you were to, think of perhaps one of your most profound, dramatic, either healings or experiences or trances that you've had? How would you describe it? What would you say would be your most beautiful experiences you've had in any of your uh, healings or trances or spiritual
I
experiences?
think it's what I experienced myself, my own personal journey, because that helped me to really understand that nothing is definite. Nothing is definite. We
Hmm.
think we know, but we don't. And it was after going back when I was 40, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and I was told I was going to be in a wheelchair. This is when it's just after I had my last child. And I was told, I was 38 when I had her, and I was told by the time I was 40, I'd be in a wheelchair. And like, I remember I couldn't have walked the length of the room. I was in so much pain. I was using TENS machines to deal with the pains in my knees and in my arms. I actually remember in bed one night and my actual hand going into the claw, the claw thing.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, this is when Eric stepped forward, okay? So it was like, all of a sudden, I kept getting these visions of a monk. And I think, what's that? And I kept seeing the colour purple. And it led me on to the Reiki journey, okay? And then when I did the first level, but the time I did the second level, and I was going for physio and everything, and I was going for the second, and I was noticing massive changes that were taking place.
Hmm.
And I remember doing, like, within the Reiki, the first level, you do the cleansing, the 3-week cleansing. And like, my whole inside of my mouth was ulcers, like literally every part of my mouth was in ulcers. And
Hmm.
after that, as I say, that journey, a year and a half later, I knew that there was changes happening My mobility was starting to become a lot better. And I went to the doctor to find out that they had done the test and 45% of my blood had come back showing rheumatoid arthritis. My grandmother was crippled with it. So I was basically going down the same path as her. And I mean, my husband was, we had 2 young children at the time, and my husband was thinking, I'm going to have to give up work to care for you. Do you know what I mean? And a year and a half later, I knew I was feeling better. But I wanted to go and see medically what was happening. And my doctor phoned me at the house and he went, I can't understand this, but your bloods have come back clear. And that whole time Eric was working with me and I was getting a relation. I actually seen him because I was actually working. I was doing Reiki and I was opening my eyes and there was a mirror in front of me and I could see his face staring back at me and smiling. And it wasn't like, oh wow. It was like, oh my gosh, I got a fright. Do you know what I mean? It was like, oh my gosh. But it sort of took me and it's that journey. So he was showing me then what was coming, but it was the trust that we were, he was showing me he was there with me at the worst time. But yet at the same time, he walked that journey with me. And that's why I've always felt, that trust, that deep, deep trust with him and moving forward, So that would have been an experience because it had such an impact on me. And knowing what I'd seen within my grandmother, the way that she was,
Yeah, that sounds like a combination of both your most profound experience in your life as well as one of the biggest challenges in your life, perhaps.
It really, really was.
That just following the path and just letting it happen as it may, and to have that trust that it's going to be okay.
And that's what it is. And it's just like, just knowing that, okay, I'm moving with this stage, I'm moving with that stage, I'm just moving with this. And I always look at life as it's teaching us. Everything that we go through, there's a lesson that we're learning through it.
Right.
So that's how I look at life. What's this teaching me? Everything that I go through, whether it's good or bad, what is this teaching me? It's like when I lost a child. And even then I thought, what's this teaching me? And what it taught me was compassion for myself. So, your most painful lessons that come forward, there's a lesson in it. There's something it's teaching you, but you have to come in and sit with it. Sit with that pain. Understand. Let that pain have a voice. Allow that pain to move through you. And when you come out the other side, you see it differently. Wow.
That's amazing. And for some reason, I'm being compelled. Perhaps this is my guides telling me to do this, but I'm being compelled to ask about the power of prayer. Does prayer have a place in connection with spirit? Does spirit hear prayer? What does the spirit world do with prayer? What are your thoughts on that?
A prayer brings us closer to God, the God within us, the spirit within us, and we start to work in union together. That's the difference. We work in union together. So is that when we put out those words, we feel those words, that's the vibration. We're connecting to trust, we're connecting to letting go. We're saying we're handing it over to you now. Remember, we get back what we're putting out. And when you say those words, you can say a prayer. Oh, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? There's no connection in that. But when you say, please, please, I know, I trust, that's what's coming back to you. So that will come back to you, not in the way that you think you need it, but it'll come back to you in the way that's right for you. And that's the most beautiful gift we get. We never get what we want, we get what we need. And that is what prayer is. Prayer is letting go. Prayer is surrendering. Surrendering to the God within us, allowing that to come through, to take us by the hand and guide us, to totally surrender to the power within you. That's what prayer is. That's what God is.
That's amazing, because it's exactly what I tell clients when they're coming to a reading. As you may want to hear from person A, B, or C. Perhaps you will, perhaps you won't. Maybe you'll get what you want. You can't always get what you want, but you will get what you need. And they're like, oh, so it lines up perfectly with the way you were just saying. You get something that you want, but it comes in a different form.
Well, you think about it, Chris. You could come to me and you say, Debbie, can you give me healing? I'm really suffering. I've had this pain in my arms and it won't go. And I come and sit. Let's sit together. I give you healing, and you walk away and you went, that didn't work. I don't feel any change. But all of a sudden, emotionally, you could be feeling a lot better. The healing will go to where it's needed. So that pain here that you're feeling here could be because that's where you're emotionally holding on to the pain, but it's the emotion that needs to go. It's that pain you need to allow to move through you for you then to bring the healing to the physical.
Is that because of our auras or energy bodies, where there might be a problem with our aura and or energy body energetically that manifests in the physical body?
Absolutely.
So we're having that physical pain in our shoulder when in fact it's energetically we've got the issue. Then that's what has to be fixed.
It's like when in the past, if I was doing healing and I used to wonder why I would get that, but say if I was working with you and I put my hand on your arm, all of a sudden the tears would be streaming. The tears would just keep streaming. So what was that? What was that telling me? Emotionally, I was helping you to let go of what you were struggling to let go. And that even happened when I worked with my dad until he more or less took his last breath. The most painful experience was working with him, but it was the most beautiful experience of what it taught me and what it was showing me at the same time. I was able to feel the changes in the energy. I was able to understand, because I couldn't understand that the only place I wanted to put my hands was on his head. I'm saying, Dad, I'm still talking to him, Dad, why is it that I only want to go to your head? Why do you think?
There you go.
See what I mean? It's not what you want, it's what you need, you'll get.
Yep, there you go. What is it that you think perhaps motivates you the most to keep doing what you're doing, to keep, you're doing what you're doing in work, your healing, your connection with spirit? What's the biggest motivator, you think?
Because it's God's plan. It's God's plan. We are here for a purpose, and our purpose is to follow out that purpose. Be guided from within. If I don't listen, I start to feel sick. That's how strong it is. If I do not act on what I'm feeling in my heart, I start to get really uncomfortable. We came here for a purpose. We don't need to know what that purpose is. We just need to flow with it. Allow ourselves to move. And if you don't, if you're tuned in to yourself, you'll understand. You'll be told. Your body tells you. Your body speaks to you constantly. But we have to listen. And it's when it's like when I look at people, I don't see the physical body, I see the spirit. I feel the spirit. So that's what keeps me going. Because I see them. And that's what it is.
Do you see the light or the degree of light of certain people, whether some people carry greater light than others? Do you see that as, as part of their spirit? Is that something that you're able to, experience and connect with?
I see them in the sense that I also see those that don't say who they are.
Mm.
And I look at that. I've often questioned that of why am I drawn to those that maybe even in their ego. Okay, why am I drawn to these? Because I want to know them. I want to get behind this and come right to the center of who they are. I want to know you. I don't want to hear you. I want to know you. I want to know what's in here. And I think that's what it
Mm.
is. I feel people. I feel the essence of who they are. And it's like through the years, things that's happened. So the way that someone acts, I have to know why are they acting like that? Not they're acting like that, but why do you act like that? What's behind it?
Mm.
What's behind it? What has made you come into this place? And that's the
Yeah.
healer, you see. That's the healer. That's the way I would interpret it. So think about it in
Thank you.
this way, right? If we have come here, okay, and we have a plan, we've all come to experience whatever it is that we've come to experience in this life. Some people experience horrendous lives. Some people can have a more blissful life, you call it, okay? They don't really go through a lot of hardships. So you think to yourself, well, why is that then? So what is my purpose here? My purpose is to hold the space for those that need it. So what's my lesson
Mm.
coming forward? To go through the experience for me to find what does compassion mean? What does love mean? What does commitment mean? What does community mean? To hold the
Mm.
space for another without judgment. It goes far beyond than what we think. And it's like, I remember, I'll give you an example. I was at a retreat a couple of years back. It was my sister and my friend. And I was given, we were in, there was different classes on this day. And I was given this card and it said laughter on it. Okay. So I thought, and we never used the cards. And I just put them into the back and my bag and the lesson went on. But the Thursday was the students' night. And I walked in and they're all saying, oh, on students' night you could do mediumship or spirit art or do an inspired talk, okay? Never thought anything of it. And my friend and my sister kept saying, you're going to do something, Debbie. And I was like, I'll see how I feel. I walked in there, right? And this is the way spirit work with you, right? How your own spirit works. I walked in there and the guy says, I says to the guy, you still taking names for tonight? And he went, yeah, you're going to put your name down, Debbie? I went, I should put it down. That's not like me. If I was doing a talk in the church, I would have it like the night before, I'd have still been up writing it. I
Yeah.
sat down, right? Not even nervous, anything. And now there's like 400 people in this room. So it wasn't like 2 or 3 people. I then, this woman went up and did the mediumship she was the first person up, and your name was drawn out a hat, so you didn't know. I was the second person drawn from that hat.
Wow.
And I stood up and I put my hand in my bag and took out the card. And I walked up to the platform. I don't know what happened after that because as I looked out, I just seen a sea of light. I didn't see the people, I seen the light. And whatever I said, people were in tears and coming up and hugging me afterwards. That's a gift
Wow.
of our spirit, and that's a gift of flow. Do you
Yeah.
know what I
Also.
mean? That's not like me,
Wow.
Chris. I would need to be prepared. But there was that
Yeah.
experience, and there was another thing that happened also during that, and that showed me the beautiful way of working with spirit, of how our own spirit moves through us, and how it helps to heal those that are in need. So it's like I said to you at the beginning as we sat and spoke, like, you know, people, it wasn't that I was this medium that sat down and gave readings, but yet when people came, there was this flow came from me. It could be like we could be sitting talking. I say, "Oh, by the way, do you understand this? Do you understand that? Do you understand where that's coming forward? Why I'm getting this?" That's the way it would have worked. It was been totally spontaneous,
Right.
and that's how my gift works. Is this spontaneous?
It sounds like it's also the critical surrender part. You're just surrendering to what you're experiencing, what you're getting, what you're receiving.
Yeah.
And by surrendering, you're then able to go into the flow as a result.
Yeah, it's and this is what I mean by in a sense stepping in and out of both worlds. When when there's something that's coming forward, it comes forward, but I never question it because it's not about me.
If you were to give a piece of advice to someone who is listening today, what would it be? Some deep piece of advice on anything?
Start to get to know you, and the only way that you'll get to know you is by sitting and sitting and sitting. When we sit, why is that important? When we sit and we start to feel within us, we start to experience that is not outside of us. And the more that we do that, the more that what happens outside won't have the same hold on you. The biggest thing at the moment is fear. You turn on the television, there's fear. You walk outside, they talk about the economy, there's the fear. We can't change what's happening out here, but we can change what's happening within ourselves just by surrendering and allowing ourselves to stay within this place. Why is that really, really important? Because you come to understand that you have the power to remain calm so that you don't react to what's going on round about you. So the decisions that you make are from a place of being grounded. That then impacts everybody around you. Your state of being, always remember that your state of being impacts everybody around you. The more that you work on that, the more you will feel the guidance within. You'll start to look at your world differently.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, that's been quite a useful piece of information for people who are trying to grow their own spirituality and understand more about who they are and how they can learn to connect with the spirit that's not only within them but also around them.
Absolutely, it's a gift. Great. It is a gift within us all.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a gift that everybody can access. Yes. Not just those who live in the mountains.
Yeah, exactly. You just make your own wee mountain.
Hey, there you go. There you go. That's all you need.
Background out the
mountain is it's in your perspective.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Debbie, thank you so much for joining us today.
It was lovely. It's absolutely been an absolute pleasure coming and sitting with you, Chris. It's been really lovely. Thank you.
Well, great. How can people get in contact with you?
Facebook, just Debbie Charlton. I also have a group, 2 groups I'm actually running at the moment, and one is Discovering the Unfoldment of Trance, which I put all my teachings on it, because I run classes, I run circles with regards to trance. And I've just started another group recently with a couple of friends, and it's called Experimental Physical Mediumship, which is another completely different subject. But these would be the
didn't have time to go into that.
That's for another day. But the main one just now is Debbie Charlton on Facebook and Discovering the Unfoldment of Trance. Those would be the 2 main ones just now. So if you want to contact me, as I say, just contact me through those avenues. Thank you.
Well, great. I will we'll make sure those go into the show notes. So
lovely, thanks.
Thank you once again. Lovely. And everybody, hope you had a wonderful time listening to Debbie. And if you like the show, definitely rate and review so others can find the show and listen to everything that you're hearing today. And if you want to have more information, everything will be in the show notes. And if you want to reach out to me, I'm at chris@spiritsbesideus.com. And with that, we'll close the show. And this is Chris sending you love and light. And I will see you next week. See you on Wednesday. Until then. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Spirits Beside Us. Make sure you head over to the show notes for all the links and information on this week's episode. You can check it out at spiritsbesideus.com. If you love this episode as much as I did, head over to rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're looking for a community of spiritual seekers like yourself, make sure you join my Facebook page, Spirits Beside Us Podcast on Facebook. This is Chris signing off, sending you love and light. I can't wait to connect with you again on Wednesday.